Welcome to the Worth It Practice YouTube channel. I am Dr. Leah Kleonsky, and I am going to spend some time talking today about what I would do if I were starting my business all over again in 2025. So I initially started my practice, Thriving Child Center, in 2016. And the world has changed so much between 2016 and what we did then and what technology was like and what the industry was like, and 2025, where we have fun things like AI and venture-backed capitalist companies as competition and just different marketing strategies. And the way that we do business now is different than the way that I did business when I started. But some things have remained the same. So I'm going to tell you what I would do if I were starting over today. And when I started in 2016, I had the goal of building a solo private pay practice and then growing it into a group. And that's the same thing I would do now. I think it's really important to get your feet wet, establishing a very successful solo private pay practice with the bones and structure so that you can expand out into group private pay practice if that's what your dream is going to be. So the first thing that I would do if I were starting all over again is I would spend some real time thinking about what it is that I want to create. I think sometimes people miss this step. What is it that you really want to build? What do you want to build right now? What do you want there to be in 10 years? And what could you see happening along the way? If you don't have a really clear idea of what it is you want to have, it's very, 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 very hard for you to build the structure to get you there. And I feel like people just get excited and they're like, should I grow into a group? Should I grow into a group? And they just don't spend the time really thinking about it. So I would spend some time just in kind of blank space problem solving. One thing I like to use ChatGPT for is helping me problem solve things by myself. I don't use it to write very much for me, but I use it as a way of getting my thoughts out there. So I'll tell ChatGPT something like, ChatGPT, you are a very successful advisor on building a thriving private pay therapy business. Ask me all of the questions I should be considering when I am evaluating how I could do this. And then it will ask me questions and I will answer the questions out loud. So I'll just have a dialogue with it basically. I'll let it ask me things and then I'll say things like, I feel like that was sort of like a very easy question. Ask me the question that I really need to answer. And then I'll answer that question. And the entire time you're doing this, if you're doing it in a separate chat, it's actually building kind of a brand concept for you. So what I would be trying to do is get very, very clear on what it is I want to have and also what kind of brand I would want to be building for my business. Things like, who am I really serving? What kinds of things do I want my business to be known for? So there's this identity of the business, like who is this for, really? And then there's some of the practicalities. So I would spend a long, long time talking to ChatGPT, really cementing my ideas. So when I was building Thriving Child Center, I knew that I wanted to build a practice based on evidence-based treatments. I knew I was going to start off just me. I knew that I definitely wanted to have assessment services. I knew I definitely wanted psychologists to work for me. And I knew that the most important thing to me was quality of care and that I didn't want to accept private pay. So all of these things were important for the group practice I wanted to build. I also really knew who I was and what my strongest skills were. And there were some stories that I thought about when I conceptualized what my brand was. So this was basically my branding for myself when I was a solo practice. I work with the kids and teens who are struggling with behaviors and no one else wants to work with. That's what I do. I work with the kids and teens no one else feels confident helping. And I could really stand behind that because I had extensive training in parent-child interaction therapy, which is an extremely effective treatment for 2 to 8-year-olds with challenging behaviors. And I've been doing it for years, and I was a trainer in PCIT. And the other population I really like to work with were challenging teenagers who were really struggling with their parents and really just struggling in life. And I had just worked in an intensive outpatient program as the director for Baylor College of Medicine. So I was very comfortable. I love strong-willed children and strong-willed teens and helping families come together. So this was, for me, a really easy thing to explain to people. It's also something that many people are not interested in doing. Working with challenging kids and adolescents, if you don't have some really good framework and evidence-based treatments for those populations, it can be really frustrating and really stressful. So people were thrilled that I wanted to take this off their hands. So I spent a lot of time really thinking about my brand. So I would take this white space again. I would spend all of this time thinking again. And except for I would use ChatGPT to help me get there even faster. The next thing I would do is do a business plan. I think you need a business plan. So sometimes people ask me, what should I do? And I'm like, well, have you written a business plan? And they say, oh, well, they said I didn't have to write a business plan. I'm like, okay. Right? Like nobody has to do anything. But if you really want to think through all of the different parts of building a business, then you need a business plan because you want to think about things like, what are my startup costs actually going to be? Am I building a business in an area that makes financial sense, right? If I'm going to be private pay, I have to be located in an area where people who are able to pay private pay rates can easily access, right? Like that's all important to think about. How much will it cost to have an office there? What could I reasonably charge there? How many sessions would I need to do in order to see this return on investment? How much does it cost to have a website? So really completing a business plan for yourself so that you can really justify and make tweaks right from the beginning, I find to be extremely important. It was extremely helpful for me to do when I was starting my business. And I would do the exact same thing again right now. And I actually do some format of this every single year, usually in December, where I sort of build a business plan for the next year. You know, what am I going to do in the next year? What are my specific goals? What is my 10-year plan from here? So to me, it's like an ongoing exercise because things are changing. So I would take some blank space. I would write a clear business plan. And when I had some really good ideas of startup costs and really clear branding ideas, that's when I would invest in a very professional website and some very professional branding. And for me, I would invest in that in such a way that it would work for me as a solo practitioner and still work for me as a group practice owner. Because lots of times people have to rebrand. I can start off, this is drleahkliansky.com, right? But once it's more than me, that website isn't going to make any sense anymore. I'm going to have to rebrand the entire thing. When I started Thriving Child Center, I was the only clinician in the office. And I was the only clinician who was there on Saturday. And I was only there on Saturdays, right? It was very, very short term. So people would be like, oh, I thought this would be so much bigger. I'm like, oh no, it's just me. But I knew someday it would be bigger. And I built a business plan planning for that. So if you know what you're going to build, then you can create something that will grow with you. You know, the kind of EHR that you choose has to work eventually in a group practice if that's what you eventually want to build. Right? Like just kind of thinking about how will these things extend out over time, right? What's going to give me what I need right now and offer opportunities for growth in the future. When I was just me in solo practice, I actually sublet a space from another practice. And I would have had the option of using their front desk admin service. And everyone else used it. But I specifically didn't because I knew I was not going to be there forever. Right? I knew that was a temporary stop in my business plan. That's where I was going to be for a couple of years. But I wanted to keep my brand identity separate. So I hired my own admin, right? My own admin who answered the phone just for my practice. If I hadn't had that plan, I was afraid I was going to get too entangled. So I would invest in quality branding and quality website for sure, because we have a brand whether we want to or not. And that's how people know us. And so being able to have a brand that is attractive and is very clear about what we do is essential right now. And having a website that people can go to that reaffirms that they know that you know what you're doing is absolutely 100% important. So I would be investing money in this. When I built my own practice, I used some savings and I invested in my own business. If I did not have savings, I would take out a small business loan to invest in my business, because you need to have good processes, good paperwork, good EHR, and good website all set up before you start. So I lay a lot of groundwork, and that's what I would be doing again right now. So I would be laying all of that out. The other thing I would be doing now that was not important then is I would be using an SEO expert right up front to help make sure that the website was going to get found. I would also record videos on YouTube, kind of like this, and put them on my website, because right now it is so important that potential clients can see you and get a sense for who you are and what your style is like and whether they're going to connect with you or not. Like, for example, if you were considering whether I would be a helpful consultant for you, you're getting a real taste of what I'm like right now, right? You either are going to like this or not like it at all. It's either for you or not for you. So having that up front is really helpful to clinicians, and it's also really helpful to potential clients. So putting yourself on the website is really good. It's also really good for SEO. So YouTube and Google are owned by the same company. So when you show up on YouTube and that YouTube video is stuck in your website, you're actually improving your SEO. So I would absolutely be putting videos on my website. So just to recap, there's the whole really getting clear on my vision for myself with branding and a business plan, right? Then investing money in a website with good SEO, and also in like a branding package so that I can be consistent. Putting YouTube videos of myself talking to potential clients about what it is I do, that would 100% go on my website now, because you want to have that content out there. And then I would be networking with other people in person. And this I did do, but I would do even more now. I would be going around meeting with other people, other practice owners, other people who work in similar industries but do different things. For example, psychiatry. I'm a child psychologist, so I'd be meeting with occupational therapists, pediatricians, school counselors, just going out and talking with people about what they do so I can understand how I can build a strong referral network, and also making them clear on what I do and being, again, very clear on what is my brand. And if my brand is I work with the kids and teens you don't want to work with, that's a great brand. And people remember that about you. It's memorable. So I would be building all of that out. I would also be establishing an email list right from the beginning that is high value, because I want all clients who join me to get on my email list. Email lists are now really important for marketing, and they're free because you write them yourself. It's a free email list. And what you want to think about a lot is what value can you add? So my email list for Thriving Child Center and PCIT experts is called 3 Quick Tips, and I give 3 strategies to solve a common parenting dilemma. I used to just write these strategies. Now I have a podcast that turns into these strategies, but the material is really good and actually really helpful, and it's just good content, but it's a way of really showing up authentically over and over and over again so that we can build that trust-like concept with potential clients, because you're really building this sales funnel. So I would do all of those things and invest in Google Ads, because Google Ads are what helps people know that you exist. So I would be trying to exist. I would be sending them to a really solid place, going down my funnel. Where can you land at this point, right? If you feel good about me, how do you land? And then what is a really clear scheduling process? And that's what I would do right now. And I would be listening to podcasts. Honestly, I would sign up for my own Worth It email because it does cut down a lot of the work. I'm listening to 10 hours of podcasts a week. You can join it if you want to. I'm like, hey, these are my favorite ones. Here's why I like them. Here's what I've tried. Here's how it's worked. But I would be really listening to other people who have really good ideas so that I could keep changing my framework. So yeah, those are the steps I would take right now if I were building a business in the therapy space. I think it would actually work pretty well. And I would be working on getting myself very, very busy, getting some really solid referrals, building some really great relationships, and then be keeping my eye on the prize for when I get busy enough. When am I thinking about bringing on my first hire, and what is the structure for that? So I'm like planting seeds. I'm going to plant seeds for the group practice to grow in the future. I'm going to be thinking about what that will eventually be while I work on the right now, because I don't want to get in over my head. I want to troubleshoot. I want to solve small problems. I want to really get on steady footing before I complicate things. Because the thing that you never want to have happen is be like one of those restaurants where they open and their first location is amazing and you go there all the time and there's a line out the door and you're like, this is the best Cuban food I've ever had. And then they grow too quickly and they like open a bunch of other restaurants and the food is terrible and their systems fall apart. And then those restaurants don't work and then the whole thing goes out of business. So I would rather be kind of a slow and steady, very clear planning, very clear troubleshooting along the way. But those are the steps. Now, some other people would lean into social media. I'm not a social media person. So that's why you don't see me a whole lot on TikTok, or actually at all on TikTok or on Instagram very much, because that's just not my vibe. I'm going to invest in the things that I'm good at, which are networking. I love making friends and hanging out with other practice owners and just other like providers in the community. Like I feel great at a networking event, so I'm going to lean into that. And that's why you see me on YouTube channels and why I have a podcast. Those are the areas where I really feel good being authentic and kind of putting content out into the world. But I don't know if I would need that if I were just building a practice for one. So yeah, so this is my answer to this question, what I would be doing right now, before the marketing piece was a lot easier. But that doesn't mean you can't do it. It doesn't mean that you can't thrive in the current market. And I really see this challenging market very much like training at high altitude for an athlete. Like get everything done when it's tough, right? Learn how to do all of these moves when the market is challenging, because it will not always be that way. But it gives you a chance to build some very robust procedures right now that you can then use much later on. So if this is helpful to you, keep on listening to my YouTube channel, keep on tuning in. If you are a psychologist and you would feel that you would benefit from some direct consulting with me to grow your private pay practice, you can set up a time for us to talk. You can fill out the application and I'll let you know whether or not we're a good fit to meet. But I hope you have a wonderful week. And if you're building a practice, I wish you the best of luck. And I hope that everything works out just the way you want it to.